Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the Tony and Dakota podcast. Today, it is going to be Tony
Yes.
and me. And we're going to be going over something that we've just noticed a lot of people struggle with. And we've struggled with personally. We actually talk about it on some of our podcasts and stuff. And that is just going through like either a divorce or just a breakup. And yeah, we just heard a lot of people that go through it. They have a lot of struggles. They go through, depression and just a lot of other things. And so we found some ways that, have improved our lives, that we've been able to not necessarily maybe like get over it all the way, but definitely some tangible things that we've done in the meantime that has helped us. And obviously I got some things that you should probably not do. Not necessarily that I've done them, but I could see other people doing them. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. So where do you want to start at?
I'll give people a little bit of a scope of what you're going through. So I borrowed this from a YouTube video I found by Dr. Jordan Peterson. He answered a question. A girl said, "What is an ego death?" And he said, that's what happens when someone you love betrays you. So you have to imagine, which is not hard, that people are infinitely complex, but we reduce their complexity in order to better understand them and relate to them in the world. Your ego constantly needs to prove you right. Your ego is always working to make sure that the way that you judge the world is correct. And when it's wrong, when you believe that someone that you know, that you love, that you trust, that you put faith into, when you believe that they're not possible of doing wrong or evil to you or betraying you, and they actually do, it destabilizes your past and everything you believed to be true. It messes with your self-image and your belief in the person that you are, the person that you believe you are. It actually breaks your ego. It kills your ego. You go through an ego death, and that destabilizes your future too. So it's a really tumultuous time where it creates an incredible amount of stress. And so because part of you dies, you have to go through the 5 stages of loss. It was like the Kubler-Ross 5 stages of death is a psychological model, but you go through denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then finally acceptance. And one of the saddest parts of that entire process is what Dakota said to me when I was going through my divorce, is that time is one of the best healers. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a model for understanding what it is that you're going to go through psychologically when something like that happens, someone that you love betrays you.
Yeah, so it's interesting. One thing you said there is like that messed me up the most was like the projection of the future and like thinking about, man, like I usually have a plan and I have it so mapped out. And, obviously since I was married, I had it mapped out like to the end of my life, which is a long time to project. That's a very long time. Like I don't even project the business to go for that long or anything. So like when that happened, that was something that definitely messed me up. And then it made me question not only my future, but then it also made me question like my, like you said, like my reasoning skills and whether or not like I actually make good decisions, or like if I know what's going to happen, if I know anybody. And that was the craziest thing. That was just that difference in the projection. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate?
It's not like what you see on HGTV.
We created a course to show you how to really invest and create a profitable flipping and wholesaling business.
We give you marketing strategies like how to pull lists, who we target, and where we find the money.
We go over sales, which includes live calls and negotiations, scripts, role-playing, and so much more.
Everything that you need to know to flip houses is in this course. And if there's anything that we missed, we will create a video to answer your specific question.
This knowledge has made us over $1 million, and we're selling it today for just $997. Click the link below.
Something I heard not too long ago from, I think I read it on like an Instagram, was if you focus on the future, it's called anxiety. or if you focus an incredible amount on the future, it end up manifesting itself as anxiety. If you focus on the past, then you end up being depressed. But if you're present, then your beingness is pretty neutral and objective. I just thought that was kind of funny because I find myself being more anxious more often than depressed. And I feel like you're the same way too. We're very future focused. And then it's more difficult for us to live in the present. But when you're going through something as terrible as a divorce, it destabilizes everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just talking to a guy actually who was on an appointment that we were going to look at his house, and like he's still going through it. And that was like, I think it was like 2 years or 2.5 years ago, and he's still like pretty messed up from it. So, yeah, so basically what I wrote down is 3 things not to do. There's going to be a lot more not to do's. Tony could probably think of like 1,000. But right now I'm going to give you like 3 major things not to do. And like, obviously, like these are going to be things that you want to do. Like you just automatically want to do certain things, and it's the opposite of what you really want. So so just to give you guys a little bit of context. So whenever my wife left me, she was, talking to another guy and wrote a letter basically to me just saying that she didn't want to be with me anymore. And that was after it was like freaking 5 o'clock in the morning or something like that. She still wasn't home. So I wake up to work out. She wasn't there. Then she said there wasn't a guy. Then I come home. Then I got the letter, found out there was. But yeah, that was like basically how she I guess was just, I don't even know where I was going with that now. But anyway, that was basically like how she left me was wrote me a letter and didn't want to actually talk to me. And the first thing that, I wanted to do was just like, okay, cool, see ya, and then isolate. So that would be one thing that I would say would be not to do is okay, think that you're alone in this and that, you're going to have to figure it all out yourself or isolate and then wallow in self-pity. Man, that is the first thing I would say not to do. And then another thing that, automatically you want to do is go and drink alcohol or drugs. If you're, already doing some kind of drugs, then it might be easier to do even more. So drinking and drugs are it's pretty obvious, but they're really easy coping mechanisms. And, the other thing is obviously just to go out and bang a bunch of people. You're just man, I'm hurting. I'm just going to go and, sleep with a bunch of women and that'll make me feel better. So, those are 3 things that I would say your main things that you're going to want to do that are the 3 things that you should probably not do. And whenever I think about, what my natural tendencies were, I think that's where I was going with it, is once I found out my natural tendencies were to do some of those things. And I was no, if I'm going to go through this, I want to do this in the most healthy way possible. And I want to actually do something that I know is going to really fix the problem, because all of these things that we're talking about, they might give you temporary satisfaction. And that's why you do them, because you'll feel good, for the first 10, 20 minutes of doing these things. And, you think that you're on the right path because you feel good for a little bit and it numbs the pain a little bit. But that's basically, just your body finding a way to deal with it in a non-productive way. And for me, whenever I was going through it, I really wanted to make sure that that I was going to help myself in the long term while still dealing with the short term stuff. So I got 3 things that I'll go over here soon that actually were 3 things that I did tangibly that helped me for that long term, as well as taking care of the short term stuff. You got anything you want to say?
Oh, I was just thinking, so one thing that Dakota told me initially was to do myself a favor and still pursue fixing the relationship initially, because then I would kick myself afterwards for not having tried to, do counseling, not having tried to see what I could do to regain and maintain the relationship. So I think you have a responsibility to yourself to try to make it work. That way you can't blame yourself later on for not trying. And when you're initially, if the other partner is the person who broke it off with you, they may already be further along in letting you go, whereas you're still in denial that it's going to end. So in order to get through that, I think you should still try to fix it. Awareness is huge, like Dakota was saying, awareness of what you're feeling and if it's helpful, because your feelings are like clouds. You know, you get to choose. You're like the sun or the sky. Your feelings are not you. Your thoughts are not you. You still have a choice. So awareness is incredibly important of your own personal psychology, but also understanding the other person's position is going to make you a little bit more bulletproof to the anger and the resentment. And even sometimes they'll, decide not to talk to you at all, or get really short with you, or cut off communication with you. That other person's eventually going to want to talk to you. If you wait it out and give them a couple weeks, or you are strategic with your communication and you're being responsible with your communication, there's a better chance you're going to be able to connect with them, and the breakup or the divorce is going to be a lot less painful and full of resentment and resistance and grinding and carrying on for years.
Yeah, it is funny. I forget some things I say sometimes or stuff that happened. But yeah, whenever you talk about like awareness, I definitely want to talk about that too. So something else that I see people do is they go too far both ways. And what I mean by that is both ways in like your, self-reflection and like, hey, what did I do wrong in this relationship? You can go too far with that. And honestly, like, I mean, I don't know if I went too far or not, but I definitely went really far. And then I see other people going the other way where they blame the other person so much and they never even self-reflect on, oh, what did I do wrong in this relationship? They just blame and they want to say that it was all the other person. So I think that like trying to find that balance of where you're at, because obviously like all of your friends are going to tell you, oh yeah, it's the other person and like it's all them and all this other stuff. All of your friends will do that. And that's what friends are for, is like, yeah, obviously they're to support you, but a really good friend is going to be honest with you on what was your responsibility and what was their responsibility. And the main thing that I think to focus on there is to find out whose responsibility it actually was. Because in my marriage, in my relationship, there was definitely a lot of things I did wrong. There's no question. And, I'll just give you guys some tangible things that I did. And honestly, like I still do a lot, and I'm working on them, is like prioritizing that relationship was something that I kind of, did not do. I put it on the back burner. I was like, okay, I'm going to prioritize my goals, the business, my health, like where I'm at, but I didn't put her as a priority. And she saw that, and that was some things that she felt. And those are some things that she expressed. She also expressed a lot of things that were not true. That, I was like this horrible person, that all I cared about was money, that I didn't care about people, and that just a lot of different things that wasn't true. But at the time, I was so far down, and I felt, hey, man, like this person knows me more than anybody else, like, closest relationship I've ever had. So whenever I'm like opening myself up and being vulnerable to somebody, and it's the closest relationship I've ever had, like, friends, mom, family, sisters, brothers, anything. And then that person tells you how horrible you are. And like, you kind of believe it. So that's the main thing, is to like really like see what is true and like decide on if you're being hard on yourself or you're being honest. And then just remember that your friends are always going to choose your side. And I would just remember that, like, I told a lot of our friends, I was like, no, a lot of this stuff is true. So like, you can make me feel better and stuff, but like, I know. And like I said, I might've went a little bit too far, but I think it was a good balance, and it helped me to self-reflect and then change my behavior, at least be more aware of my behavior for the future. So
yeah, and a lot of times on the other side, you may end up being resentful, or you may end up being upset with her parents or the other party's parents or the other party's friends, and all of a sudden you thought you were friends with them, or you thought that they loved you, and now you're finding out that really they were always hers, or the other person's, which is okay. It's just a matter of changing your perspective. That's how you end up getting out of that resentment, because it's pretty natural for parents to side with their son or their daughter. Like, you're always going to be wrong if you're the person who's on the opposite side, for the most part. I mean, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, people get really, they kind of throw logic out the window, and they follow their own, their relation. So
yeah. And that's what I always try to keep in mind whenever, like, our friends were telling us, like, oh, it's all her fault. I'm like, no, like, that's main thing you got to be careful of, is, like, you start to believe them, and then you're like, you don't even self-reflect at all. But then, like I said, I see other people that go so far down the rabbit hole, and they beat themselves up so far, and they think that they would have saved it. And now it's been, I mean, how long has it been now? I don't know, 4 or 5 years probably. And I know now that even if I fixed those things that I thought were these major, major issues, I now know that even if I fixed them and I changed that, I'm still me. I'm still who I am. And she did not love who I was as a person. And I found that out later. But so even if I did everything right, even if I did everything that she supposedly wanted me to do, it still probably would not have worked out, because she didn't like who I was as a person, or she had a different view of who she thought that I was. So that's what I think that people do a lot of times whenever they get into a relationship, is they create an image, basically like what Tony talked about, is like your ego death. You create this character of who you think this person is, and then whenever you find out that it's not, then, like, man, that's pretty messed up too. Like, you kind of go through a death on that, because you're like, dang, I thought I knew this person. And yeah, same thing with whenever you go through a divorce. I thought that I knew who she was, and after everything, I found out that I was completely wrong, and it changes your perspective on everything, on if you're right on anything or who anybody is, and it also questions your ability to pick a partner in the future. I feel like it makes it more difficult to decide if you can trust your intuition. But so 3 tangible things that I did. Some of these, actually, let me look. No, I did all of these things. So the main one, and this is like, pretty self-explanatory, is workout. And I know that sounds like super easy and like, an easy fix or whatever, but like working out, like, could have saved my life realistically, like, because like I got very depressed, but every time I lifted, worked out, sweat, like anything, I just went really hard in it. And that working out, like, man, it releases a ton of endorphins, and it made me feel better about myself, made me feel more confident. I was just getting a lot bigger, and like, you can use this as a crutch. Like any of these other things I was talking about too, the things I told you not to do, drinking, having sex with a bunch of other people, isolating yourself, like you could use that as a crutch too. But if I'm going to use a crutch and I'm going to find a way to avoid this situation that I have to deal with, this is what I would want to do, is like, okay, I'm going to work out, I'm going to eat healthy. Like, I'm going to do things that, like, yes, are avoiding the pain that I'm doing, but at the same time still building me up. So that's what I did. And then the second thing that I did was build your community. So like getting around certain people who are really going to actually help you and benefit you. For me, it was a small group, and then it was getting closer with God. I would say that I was the closest whenever I got broken down like that, because then like you remember what's really important, or you have to go back to what's important, because you're so far down that you're like, man, what is important? You just lost a person that's close to you. So building up your community and people around you that are actually there to support you, help you. And then again, small group. One thing that I didn't put on here actually that I would add to that is like giving back. So that was when we actually did Villages of Hannah, which is downtown. It was just for, I guess it was just like a rougher neighborhood. And we were down there and just volunteering with the kids, and like it was amazing. So just giving back in a way and actually feel like you're making a difference. And then the last thing that I had was just accomplishing your dreams, like having something to pursue, whether it's your job, whether it's, your dreams, whether it's hiking, whether it's doing something that you've always wanted to do. I really feel like that helped. The month that Baja actually left me, I sold the most vehicles I've ever sold in a month. It was like 31 or something like that because I didn't know what else to do. So I went really hard in that. So again, these are not things that are going to like obviously make you feel better, but if you're going to do something that's like a crutch or like that's going to take your attention off of it, it might as well be something productive and actually healthy for you in the long run. So instead of doing these short-term fixes that are detrimental, try to do a short-term fix that'll actually like hopefully help you in the long run as well.
Yeah, there's also, I was just going to throw in there counseling. It's hard to say if you get like a really good counselor or like free counseling or, whatever that looks like for you. And then I even did a little bit right after that, and it's still helpful to be able to talk to people and that sort of thing. Also, an alternative to counseling would be more like group counseling, which would be like a personal development seminar or something like that. If you go get around those people, like I think Tony Robbins is Awaken, or like something about the power within. There's PSI seminars. There's other seminars like that are personal success or like will help you process through that and be with a community of brand new people. So if you don't have a good feeling on who you want your next group of friends to be, that would be a good group to get thrown into, is just people who are pursuing personal growth and success and that sort of thing. So I would say like maybe the first purchase you should make after your divorce is like, $1,000 on a personal development seminar. Just go to one of those 1 day, 3 day, 5 day events and get connected with a new group of people. You change your environment too. It's important because you've been in the same group of friends, the same environment. Maybe a lot of the things around you continue to bring up the exact same memories. And you're going to be constantly reminded of that person that, you're no longer with. And so a great way to get out of that environment is to literally physically change that environment.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is a lot of times people, whenever they get out of a relationship, they're like, oh man, I don't have any friends, because all of our friends were like interconnected now, and they can't really tell on who's friends with who. So yeah, that's a good point, is just to like go to a seminar or like something where you are going to go to a new group and like find some new friends who are actually pursuing truth and hopefully growing as well. Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, so I guess we have talked about a couple times on this podcast how life happens for you and not to you. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the good. Dakota brought it up a little bit. So when you go through something like this, you go through an ego death, it makes you take a second and become more introspective and reflect on where you're at, what it is that you did wrong, and how you can be better in the future, how you can show up more for the people that you love. And then it's going to help you empathize and relate to other people. There are an incredible amount of people who've been through a divorce, a breakup. Not very many. A lot of people have been very, very certain about the person that they were going to spend the rest of their lives with. Never imagined themselves going through a divorce. So you share that in common with other people. You don't necessarily want to buy into the same story that they may be telling themselves, because it's probably not serving them. The majority of people will go into victim consciousness, where the divorce happened to them and it destroyed everything that they built, and it crushed their worldview and made them less abundant. They're operating out of scarcity now because of the thing that happened to them. But you can use everything that you learned from your divorce or your breakup for good. So that's just my input. I was going to turn it over to Dakota and see what he's got as far as the good that can come out of something like this.
Are you letting deals fall through the cracks because you don't have good systems in place?
We've been there before, and we've tried several different CRMs, and Ari Simply has been the best.
Ari Simply tracks your KPIs, does automatic follow-ups for you, and even records your incoming phone calls.
The system is simple to use and has more features than we even know what to do with.
If you're looking for a great CRM, try Ari Simply today. We put the link in the description. Check it out now.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's a lot of good that did come from it, but I will say that, first of all, if you guys are going through this, I mean, it sucks, and there's no getting around that. It was literally the hardest thing that I've ever been through, ever, which is crazy because I've been through some pretty traumatic things, especially when I was younger. Just some crazy stuff. But this was one of the hardest things for me because, again, like Tony said, I went to self-reflection. So then I'm like really focusing on like, okay, I had control of whether or not this happened in a way. Obviously, like I said, like now I found that I think it still probably wouldn't have worked out even if I did everything that she supposedly wanted. But at the same time, I still did have control. I probably could have still made it work and definitely could have had a better relationship. So, yeah, it's just one of the hardest things ever. And it will make you a better person, though. I definitely believe that. So, I mean, the main thing, like Tony said, is being able to relate to other people and actually empathize with them, I think is one of the biggest things because a lot of people don't want to talk about it. A lot of people, can't relate, especially if you've never had it happen. Like, people think that, whenever I tell them my struggles, a lot of people who have not been through a divorce are like, yeah, but this is what you got to do. And I'm like, man, I wish that it was that easy. Like, the way that you're describing it, like, it is hard. But I know that it has helped me to have a better relationship now because I notice myself going to those things. I do think that it's definitely changed me as a person in a better way because now I am more self-reflective and then I started going to listen to more of these love podcasts and find out how to do it more. It created more of a spiritual side of me. Like, I was already, a believer, but I still got closer to God in that process. So that was another huge benefit. It created relationships where I found my friends. I got way closer to my friends. Especially Jimmy, who was just there and we talked through a lot of things. So closer in those relationships. Like I said, we also went to Villages of Hannah. So while I'm going through all of this stuff, we got to give back. So I think that was a huge benefit, not just for me, but then also for the community as well. So there was a lot of good things that did come out of it. There's a lot of stuff that still struggling through today from it that I don't know if it'll ever go away, but I definitely think that it's kind of like a scar in a way. It's it's there. And hopefully you can use it for good. Same thing, whenever you go through anything traumatic in your life, it's always going to be there, but there's always a positive way to deal with it and go about it. So yeah, the only other thing that I was going to say was one thing that I try to do in the divorce, and I do this with almost every relationship, especially whenever I think that, it's in a way, everybody wants to do what's fair. And they want to make sure that they get what they're supposed to get and all this other stuff, especially in a divorce. It seems like, what I did and what I would suggest, and you guys can do whatever you want if you're going through it, but I would suggest making sure that the other person feels like what they're getting is extremely fair. So that's what I try to do. Like I said, at the end of every relationship, I know we've had some people that have stolen hours from us. And then they said that they're working more hours than what they did. And we're like, cool, we'll write you a check for however many hours and then you're fired. Because now it's on them to get mad at us, even though they're the ones who are in the wrong. We're going to give them no reason to be upset with us. So that was the same thing that I tried to do in the divorce is, I asked her how much money she wanted. She gave me a number. And then I just said, I'm going to give you, X amount. And it was actually more than what she said, just because I was like, I'm going to give her more than what she thinks is even fair. So for me, it was more about preserving that relationship and her perspective of who I am as a person than it is about trying to get as much as you can out of that and feel oh, I'm not letting this person take advantage of me or anything. I think that that's helped me a lot, and to know that I didn't take from her, or at least not on purpose. And that was, you know, one way of kind of proving that, I guess, and that I did care enough and tried to, you know, salvage the relationship as much as possible. So that'd be one thing that I would suggest is just make sure that it's more than fair. Like I would give them just a little bit more than what I think is even fair. But
well, and that's an attitude of abundance too, because you know that you can get it back and then some.
Yeah.
I think some people end up operating from scarcity where they're like, this is my entire life. Like, this is my entire life savings, or this is all I'm ever going to have. And it's like, man, if you hold on to money or to your house or to your belongings too tightly, then you end up not being like, if you don't, there are so many rewards associated with risking more that you aren't going to get. And so when you operate from scarcity, when it comes to split up assets or something like that, I mean, I definitely wanted the duplex that my ex-wife ended up getting, but I'm glad that she ended up with it because it, in the grand scheme of things, it's gonna pale in comparison to what we're able to accomplish.
Yeah.
And I mean, now I'm looking at it makes me think of the Johnny Depp trial because she got so much from his divorce, and now he's suing her for destroying his character. He missed out on a few different movies. Like, he was labeled as an abuser and everything. Now it's coming out that she's really the abuser. So he's getting everything back and then some now.
Wow.
Which is crazy. But I just think that, you know, one way or another, if you're more generous, you end up with more in the end.
Yeah, I would say that's actually pretty important too, that you think you talk about that, because like to me that is more important, and that maybe is why I did it, is like my character and who I am, and like, you know, I want to give her no reason to really be able to talk bad about me, I guess. Like, it's not like I was like, oh no, it's all mine and I built it and all this other stuff, because then like, yeah, the person's gonna get angry. So like, I want to give them no reason to be angry with me is really like the goal, I guess, is like, this relationship is ending. I still want you to like love me or like me as a person and have no reason to ever talk bad about us. So yeah, I think that is, that's why, because to me that is more important, character and like what she can say to her friends. Like, it's kind of hard to complain if you get more than what you asked for. So, yeah. Got anything else?
Don't do anything too crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, don't I would also say another thing to not do is obviously do exactly what we're talking about, is like going behind their back, or like, you know, just saying a bunch of negative stuff. Like, man, like it doesn't actually help anybody. It doesn't make you feel better. Like, you know, just talking bad about them. Obviously, this is somebody that you really cared about. I don't think it's going to help anybody to say negative things, and it's definitely not something that I ever tried to do or anything. Like, you know, you could say honest things that happened, but at the same time, like, you know, questioning their character and everything, I think is probably not a great idea.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always like crazy things that come to mind, is like taking people's stuff out of the house and throwing it in the yard. Like, don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
like don't spray paint cheater on their car. Like, don't do any of that like stuff that's gonna end you, like put you in jail, get your butt kicked, you know, by somebody else. No, changing locks on doors, breaking windows, like getting restraining orders against people when they don't deserve them. Like, that kind of stuff can really escalate things and make them so much worse and drag them on for so much longer. And then you have multiple court cases, multiple lawyers. It's a lot simpler if you don't do something crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you guys have been through a divorce or, you know, just a long-term relationship ending, and you think that there's anything else we should add, put in the comments below. Hopefully this helps you guys. We've been, you know, talking about this for a while now, talking about making something like this, because, you know, it's a hard thing and a lot of people go through it, unfortunately. And yeah, hopefully that gives you some tangible stuff that you can actually use to help. Also, if you guys are interested in the seminar, the PSI seminar, basic. We are having it August 19th through the 21st. So honestly, if you have went through a relationship, a breakup, or anything like that, like this will definitely help. It helps a lot with self-reflection. It's kind of like, a year of counseling in 3 days. So it's some really, really good stuff. And we hope that it helps. And if you guys need somebody to talk to one-on-one, I know that Tony and I both would be more than open to sitting down with you and like trying to help any way that we possibly can. We've been through it, and hopefully we can give some other good advice as well once we hear your individual stories. So, got anything else you want to say?
That's it.
All right. Peace out, guys.